What is this? Who did this?
It's not every day that I find a game that I cannot absolutely stand. I can stomach most games to the point of at least beating them, but this one, I just couldn't. I really couldn't. The concept, while it sounds fun, is poorly executed, which leads to a frustrating playing experience. Metropolismania aims to have the player build cities over the course of 5 stages. While the game does go on for many more levels past that, the end of stage 5 is considered the end of the game. However, I couldn't make it past stage 1. Let me explain. The game starts off with an interesting story, despite it being a city builder type game. The human race is in trouble, as communication has broken down amongst ourselves, as our preferred way to communicate is through technology and not face-to-face interaction. Funny, as I sit here writing a script for a YouTube video, recording all of the capture footage, and then my voice using nothing but technology, the irony is almost too thick. Anyway, with increased technology usage, the human race is supposedly spiraling towards extinction. But not to fear, we are the chosen one, the mythical Metropolis Maker. We meet our boss, who gives us the rundown of what's going on with humans and breakdown of communication, and how there was no more heroes, and it's all up to us to fix the situation we're in. This intro goes on for some— oh my god! Ugh, not what I expected there at all. Can we please turn him around again? Guess not. Could've used a warning before we saw that mug. After taking a second to recover from that jump scare, the boss goes on to explain how to use the few items we are given, which is a little early in my opinion as we haven't really started playing the game, and there's still quite a bit of dialogue to go through. Let's also take a second to listen to this top-of-the-line voice acting.
And happy future for mankind. Here are some general steps to follow.
Now, I'm not saying I'm a top-tier voice actor at all. This is only my, 4th YouTube video, and I can tell bad from good, and this is definitely bad. Now, we can't blame the voice actor themselves, as I'm not sure if they were given any direction for this, but man, this is tough to listen to.
Be sure to pay close attention to your affection rate. To become popular, you must communicate with people well and solve the various problems that they might have. I have prepared 5 development sites for you to work on. Your skills as a Metropolis Maker will improve as you go along.
The awkward pauses while the model keeps moving is funny, but also very painful to watch. You can tell this was developed for a Japanese voiceover and not an English one.
You will have the latest and most fashionable attire on your mission. This is the Metropolis Maker uniform. Pretty neat, huh? I designed it myself. Like it? Put it on and oh hey, don't forget the hat.
I have no idea why the game decides to point out this yellow suit. The boss seems to have some need to point it out, but as far as I can tell, it's just the clothes you, the Metropolis Maker, wear. Not really sure why they did this. When the boss finally stops yapping, you are placed into your first map to start building your first city. And I say city loosely as it only requires a population of 200. To get things started, you place a street by using your magic chalk stick tool. The boss, even though he describes the tools in that awkward award-winning intro not too long ago, feels the need to explain every tool again. Things you have a concept of already, he calls you on, and it's non-stop. Seriously, it gets to the point of being very obnoxious. Finally, when the boss is done killing your cell phone battery, you are free to start building your city by adding more streets via your magic chalk, and placing families within your application list down. The application list lists out people, families, services, and businesses who wish to move to your town. While at the start of your city, you only have a handful of these contacts. As you talk with your townfolk, you can demand to meet their friends, and if they like you enough, they will share a contact card with you, which is added to your application list, which then in turn makes new people move to your town. Remember at the start, during that awkward intro, how communication's breaking down? The game really emphasizes talking to your townfolk and making friendships and connections. This emphasis is needed to continue your town. Without those communications, without the relationship building, you don't get access to contacts, which means no more applications to your town. So communication is breaking down, and we also need to increase our population to beat a stage. So how do we go about doing all this? Well, harassing our own townfolk in order to meet their friends, of course. Remember what I said, you can demand to meet their friends, and if they like you enough, they will share a contact card with you. So constant harassing and non-stop talking is, gonna save the species, right? So just a few seconds ago, I mentioned people, families, services, and businesses that can come to your town as you progress your relationships with your townfolk. I should explain this a bit more. There are some citizens that will be all by themselves, who have usually an apartment to live in. I have called this category people. Families are self-explanatory. Usually a man and a woman living together in their early, mid, or late life. The middle-aged families can be seen with kids, ranging from one to a few of them running around, and all of them ranging in ages. Services are entities that serve the community as a whole, such as a police station, hospital, school, and things of that nature. Businesses are just what they sound like. Businesses. Everything from grocery stores to factories, from veggie marts to bookstores, from spas all the way to stationery stores. Once a citizen gets comfortable enough with you, they will introduce you to somebody they know, whether that be a family, a person, a business, or an amenity. Once this introduction takes place, a new entry will be input into your application list. Select your application list, and then go find your new applicant. Once selected, you can place their building down anywhere on the map, and I do mean anywhere. Now, you can let your applicants go rogue if you wish. As long as they have a road nearby, they will automatically move in without your input. I'd probably advise against this, as you will want a nice synergy when building everything. I'll touch on this a bit later. So just to recap, befriend your citizens, make them feel comfortable around you, increase that friendship gauge, and then eventually ask them for an introduction to their contacts, whether it be a person, family, business, or amenity. Once you have that applicant in your application list, go ahead and throw them into your town. Then, befriend them and start the process all over again, continuing this cycle countless times until you hit the population amount that you need in order to complete the stage. But how do you interact with these townfolk? How do you get them to like you enough to get them to introduce you to people that they know? Talking to them while they're out and about is one way, but that's no fun. When you have a magic cell phone in your pocket, you can just break into their house at any hour of the day. Just equip the cell phone, point at the building you want to enter, and click on the interact button. You'll be instantly transported inside the building, and you can interact with anyone that is inside said building. Even at night, you can perform this breaking and entering crime, but you'll more than likely just find them asleep on the ground. Y'all just live like this?
Please don't tell anyone how I live.
So again, constantly interacting with people in hopes of them giving us new contacts so they can come to our town so that we can talk to them and go on and on and on and on and on and on. Now, up to this point, this game doesn't sound that bad, and you may be asking, why would I only play stage 1 and not even finish it at that? Well, my friend, let me tell you, this gameplay loop got old very, very fast. On the other hand, I loved planning my city out, trying to make it as grid-like as possible, just like a real city should be, and trying to build amenities close by to make my citizens happy. This part I had absolutely no problem with. If I could just build and watch the city do its thing, I would play this game for a long time. But then the complaints rolled in, and they rolled in one right after the other. The boss does warn you about this in that fever dream of an introduction, but man, these people are picky and needy. The complaints do make sense though. If they need an elementary school for their elementary age child, then I totally get that, and you should have access to that building. The problem is, you just don't have access to it just right now. Same with a hospital. Early on in the game, you don't have access to that just yet. So, what's a Metropolis planner to do? Remember that harassing that I mentioned earlier? Yep, you guessed it. We gotta annoy more people in order to find someone who has the hookup for that elementary school or that hospital. Because, that's how it works in real life. Need a new school? Just go bug your friends. They know a guy. Finding people to bring into your town is easy, but finding certain contacts that fulfill your people's needs and to satisfy these complaints they have is a whole different ballgame. It's roughly the same concept, just become friendly enough with someone in your town, and instead of asking to be introduced, you select Solve Complaints. From there, you can select which complaint you want to inquire about, and if you're lucky, and I mean lucky, the person you're talking to will know someone who can fulfill this need, and thus solve this complaint. If they don't, you gotta try someone else until you find someone who finally does know somebody who can fulfill this. If you have multiple complaints building up, you can select which complaint to choose from when inquiring about contacts that can fulfill these needs. But if the person you are interacting with doesn't know anyone and you wish to inquire about another contact that can fix a complaint, then you have to start the conversation all over again. Remember how I stated that people can get annoyed with you? Well, if you have more than 2 complaints, you're going to end up annoying them by asking them again and again and again about a contact they may or may not have to solve a complaint in town. And it was at this point where my fun meter started dropping quickly. This rinse and repeat cycle that takes place for every complaint got old very fast for me, and you can't ignore their complaints either, or else your approval rating goes down. And if that gets bad enough, people will flat out leave. Before I knew it, all my time was dedicated to finding contacts to move in and to fix complaints that my people had. That's not all though. Just because you have the contact that can fix a complaint doesn't mean anything. You still have to place the contact in a location that is close enough to those who are affected by the lack of whatever amenity they're complaining about. Build it just out of reach and the complaint won't get resolved. What bothers me is my town had like 10 roads total, and you're telling me a family can't just walk to the other side of the town? During my time playing and building and organizing the city, I walked it over 100 times a day. It's not that hard, people, seriously. And I see cars driving on my roads. I know you'll have cars. Just drive! For example, this one family in my town wanted a quote-unquote family restaurant. And as you can see, just down the road is a restaurant that clearly says, in the Denny's font I might add, family. That is a family restaurant. I placed it there thinking that the complaint would be resolved, but I was wrong. Instead, I had to find another family restaurant and place it literally behind their house. And then, and only then, was the complaint resolved. Placement aside, finding these amenities can be a wild goose chase because if the person you are talking to doesn't know someone immediately, they may allude to another person in town that possibly knows someone who may have a contact to help you out. A possibility, not a guarantee. One complaint broke me. One single complaint that I couldn't find a contact for made me zoom out and look at the game and myself playing it in the third person. I then asked myself, am I having fun? When I responded no, I knew it was time to put the controller down and walk away from this game. There are only so many hours in the day that are free for me to play games and do what I love. I'm not going to waste time on a game that I am no longer having fun in. The complaint that finally broke me was that the town did not have a gas station. Fair enough, this town has cars running in it, and I see them everywhere, and cars need gas. There's no Cybertrucks rolling through these streets. So off I went looking for someone to give me a contact for a gas station. This was an adventure and a half, as I was constantly led in circles talking from one person to another, and then back to the original person I talked to in the first place. This went on for ages, and at the end of my capture I gave up, called it quits, never found that gas station. The gas station was the straw that broke the camel's back. The complaint system and the constant talking to your townfolk got old quick. I understand the game was trying to teach a lesson of, you can't rely on technology to do everything, people still need to communicate. But at the end of the day, this experience made me want to become a recluse and never talk to anyone again. After I ended my capture, I consulted the almighty Google, looking for answers on this mysterious gas station. I found several guides on how to get it, but reading these guides made me realize that I wouldn't exactly be playing the game anymore if I used these guides. I'd be on autopilot. These guides had everything from moving in certain people, talking to certain people, bribing certain people, to ultimately get the ideal scenario where I get the contacts I need to fix the complaints I'm going to have in a certain stage. In my opinion, guides can be helpful to anybody. I use them from time to time. But in a game like this, I feel like I would just be dialing it in for the sake of playing the game the right way. The guides I also found showed the ideal layout for your city in order to beat a stage, and I had to ask myself again, what would be the point of playing this game if I used a guide like this? To me, the most enjoyable part of the game was organizing my city. Having a guide show me how to build it brick by brick kind of defeats the purpose. Overall, I did not enjoy my time with Metropolismania. This game didn't feel finished, and the quality of life, or rather the lack thereof, was horrible. The quality just wasn't there. Just look at this broken English, and that's all you need to know about this game. Now, there is a cult-like following for this game. There is even a subreddit dedicated to it, and it's still active to this day. But this is one city I will never be a resident of. Maybe the second one is better. Or not.
What the hell is even that?
If you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate it. I really, really do. And it would mean the world to me if you could leave a like and a comment about what you liked about this video. I'm still pretty new overall to content creation, so any feedback you have, I will gladly accept. I want to get better at this, as I do enjoy all the behind the scenes stuff that goes into making videos like this, from writing a script, capturing stuff, to just playing with technology in general. So again, if you made it this far, thank you very much, and please consider subscribing. Thank you, and until next time.